Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who always makes the right choices. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Decidedly untrue, but I appreciate the introduction.
Well, I hope you make the right choices today because
I hope so too.
On today's show...
Are we talking about a controversial topic that people have strong opinions about?
We certainly are.
No, really?
We're going to be picking...
all politics.
No politics. Well, it's kind of political, right?
I guess so.
A US men's national team, 23-man roster for the upcoming games against Mexico and Uruguay. For those who don't know, it's Mexico September 6th in New Jersey, I think it's at the MetLife, and against Uruguay on September 10th in St. Louis. Meet me in St. Louis for that game. We're going to pick it reality-based, right?
Yeah.
Injured players don't get called in.
No.
For example.
Yes.
And we're doing this in advance of when the actual roster gets released, just because we like to get a jump on it,
yeah.
you know, and have a little think about who we'd like to see in there, who we would not like to see in there. I don't know how you've done it, Taylor, but I've done it in a sort of to fit Greg Berhalter's system. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm picking it, but Berhalter's going to coach the team and play the way that we know they've been playing in the Gold Cup.
I've done it, like, more so just the players that I think would fit in there and could be fun to watch.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. No, I've done it your exact way.
All
no,
right.
Of course. Because it is more fun for me that way to think about it from a perspective of this is what I know Greg Berhalter is likely to do.
Yeah.
And so then these are the people that I think personally would fit that system really well. So then if there is a lot of disparity or a few different points
between you and Greg.
Yeah, then it's sort of a like, okay, well, I wonder what he's looking for, what he doesn't see in my player.
I see.
Put it that way. Yeah.
Are you assuming that we're going to have the same system and the same sort of formation where, like, through the Gold Cup, the right back no longer came in field. The right back overlapped and went really wide. So Reggie Cannon was essentially, when we attacked, would go and be essentially an extra winger. And the right winger, who was, say, Tyler Boyd for a good while, or Jordan Morris later on, would then tuck inside a little bit. Are we sort of expecting that same system? Because it is worth thinking that Berhalter could throw some curveballs at us in terms of tactics. There could be a new wrinkle for September.
Well, I think there may be. Or I think that's the one thing that I kind of want there to be. I'll talk about that in a second.
You do?
I do think that we'll probably continue to see the overlapping fullback as opposed to the fullback becoming a central midfielder.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that, maybe he was planning on it, maybe he wasn't, but I think without Tyler Adams, you look at the right backs who are probably going to be there or in consideration for that spot, they are less likely, I think, to go be a central midfielder, much more likely, much more naturally inclined to be overlapping fullbacks.
Because it was designed for Tyler Adams, right? And for those who don't know, Tyler Adams, as of a couple of days ago, RB Leipzig say he's 2 to 3 weeks away.
Yes.
So I'm assuming he's not on either of our rosters.
No, he's not.
Because it's reality
No, so the one wrinkle I wouldn't mind seeing, and I'm guessing maybe you've thought about the same thing, because it's a thing we talked about from the last time the national team was playing, was maybe having the ability to have the left back be the attacking fullback if we need to kind of vary the approach, and then have the right back be more stay-at-home, become almost a right center back.
And so to give people a refresher, what happened in the Gold Cup final against Mexico, we had Tim Ream starts as the left back in the back four, but when we attack, the right back goes forward.
I genuinely forgot it was the Gold Cup final that this happened.
Right. Then
I couldn't remember if it was a friendly or not.
Tim Ream just shuffles over a few yards and becomes a left centre back in a back three. And then it's just not his role. He's not suited to like being an overlapping attacking fullback. But what Mexico did is they switched Pizarro. I think it was Rodolfo Pizarro. He switched sides so that we pinned back the right back, but there wasn't a left back who could get forward.
No.
So that is a problem that we are possibly going to need to solve against Mexico.
Possibly.
Other issues, no one can get cap-tied.
Right.
These are not FIFA sort of like, you know, official competitions. These are just friendlies. If we call up Sergino Dest or someone like that, he cannot get cap-tied in a September friendly.
Can I yes but you for a moment?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think the counterpoint I have seen to that is, yes, but at least we can show them the intent that we want them to be involved in the program. To that I say, maybe, but I also think I like to believe that some of those calls are already happening and some of that planning is already in the works. So I still think it doesn't change a lot for me. Like, I think the one we're probably kind of dancing around is Sergino Dest.
Yeah.
Like, that is one who I think should be called regardless. It's less about the, like, well, then I'm dancing around.
Well, I mean, Dest should be called up because he's playing right back for Ajax.
Exactly.
And most importantly, not just because he's playing. I never think that's enough. Oh, he's playing in Europe, therefore call him up, right?
Yeah.
He's playing well. When you watch him, you're like, oh, there's a good soccer player.
Exactly.
And he's played well for the U20s. It's kind of time.
Yes.
We'll get to Dest when we name our fullbacks, right?
No.
So just so people
That's
know,
it for me. No more Dest.
October is when we play CONCACAF Nations League against Cuba and Canada. Those are FIFA competitions. Those will cap-tie players. If Dest or someone else plays in those games, that's when we can stop panicking.
Okay.
Stop hyperventilating.
Yes.
The other issue I want to raise is, so actually I emailed US Soccer this morning to ask, it looks likely there will be a U23 camp at the same time.
Is this what happens when you have early morning breakfast with people and then several hours between breakfast ending and time of recording?
Do some research.
Is that what happens?
I researched Dutch right back depth.
I saw
can name like 7 Dutch right backs now. I was told by US Soccer, nothing specific, but it's likely, it seems there will be a September U23 camp, maybe even some games we don't know yet. And for those who don't know, the Olympic qualifying will be in March 2020, but we have these camps so that Jason Kreis, U23 coach, can get guys together and see. And I think that impacts who is on this. It possibly impacts who's on this September roster.
How
right?
so?
Because someone like, say, Sergio Dest, they could be like, oh, he could be a great U23 right back. Let's just call him up to those Olympic squads and get him familiar with that. I'm not sure anyone would like that, but that's a possibility of a thing that could maybe happen.
It's a possibility.
Miles Robinson, Paxton Pomykal, the same kind of thing.
Maybe. But for me, it's more the, this guy, if he's going to make the national team squad, then go to the national team. Like, that's how it's going to be. But if maybe they're not interested in including him, then he'll be a U23. But I think what I mean by that is that people who are on the margins for me, maybe those are the ones who end up with the U23s.
Yes.
But the ones you've mentioned...
Who's on the margins? Is Miles Robinson margins? Is Paxton Pomykal margins?
Not for me.
Right.
To tip my hand a little bit. But...
we have the exact same roster?
Well, let me rephrase, because I think I didn't make that clear. We're going to have a close roster, is my guess.
Yeah.
I guess I mean more so that, like, if you didn't have that U23 camp, maybe there's a player that Berhalter, wants to get a look at, and he won't have any other opportunities.
Yeah.
But if there's that U23 camp, then maybe that player can go to the U23s, and you can see what happens there and evaluate sort of how they fit in with that group for future opportunities.
The camp may even happen very close, geographically to the senior camp, so you could get someone flitting back and forth and dipping in and out.
You might could. You might
do. All right, are you ready to get going? I think I've sort of deliberately raised all issues beforehand so we know where we stand.
Okay.
Let's start with our goalkeepers.
All right.
3 goalkeepers in the 23-man squad. Oh, also worth noting, maybe there's a chance that it's like a 26-man squad.
There is.
You know what I mean? Like we have someone play one game and then someone else play another game, but we'll go with 23 for now.
All right. How about if I go with the first goalkeeper and then you name the second and third choices?
Okay.
Again, showing my hand with my level of indecision there. But Zach Steffen for me is number one.
Starting goalkeeper, played well for Fortuna Düsseldorf over the weekend. He's the man.
He's the man.
Yeah.
There we are.
Steffen's the man.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So it's going to be a Zach attack in goal. My backups I had are Sean Johnson and Ethan Horvath.
Okay.
So Ethan Horvath in a tough spot right now.
That's my question.
Season, because Mignolet is playing for Bruges. But it's not been like ages and ages of him not starting. It's just been the first couple of weeks of the season. You know what I'm saying? If he's like 6 months in the cold and not playing, then I start to worry. Right now, I'm definitely okay with him being third choice on the US men's national team.
Why him over other players like MLS goalkeepers who are playing regularly for their teams?
It's interesting that you didn't name a specific goalkeeper.
Sure, I mean, I can. We'll see. Here's where I struggle.
Guzan, maybe?
I mean, I have Brad Guzan.
Retired.
I have Brad Guzan and Bill Hamid as my other two opportunities. Sean Johnson, you've got in there already, correct? Yeah. So I think it's those two, and I had Horvath on my list as well. What I always struggle with is, and I asked David Goss about this. I'm wondering if he'll message us during recording. If he does, I'll let you know which goalkeepers he thinks have the best feet in the league, because I do think that is a major.
I like the idea of David Goss getting all the MLS goalkeepers to line up barefoot.
Yeah.
And he just examines with a magnifying glass.
You don't know what he's into.
I'm going to guess specifically that.
Let's hope so. But because that is the thing that I'm curious about. It was strange to me knowing what Berhalter has done.
He's the Tarantino of extra time.
Good God. I don't think he's going to love this bus that we have thrown him under, this foot-shaped bus. But I think, so that's what I struggle with, is the distribution. And what I've found interesting, knowing the way Berhalter wants to play, is a lot of my Y-Scout research was watching people who you usually wouldn't worry about in terms of their passing ability, watching their passing ability. That was a big thing I was paying attention to.
So what did you see in terms of goalkeepers who were good with distribution in MLS?
I mean, that's to be totally honest, I can't really say with any level of confidence, because
it's not a thing I think about with Bill Hamid as being a positive for
no, and so really, I want it to be Bill Hamid because DC, and I like Bill Hamid, but I think I have appreciated all that I have seen from Brad Guzan in the times that I've seen him for Atlanta, and I think he remains a very good shot stopper. I liked what I saw from him in the locker room, like at All-Star, at MLS Cup, and so to me, I think he maybe is a shout for the third choice. That said, it's weird
for him to be the third choice after being the first choice, though, right?
It's
almost
strange.
like we've moved on, so why would we have him as the third choice? It depends how he feels about it as well. There could be a phone call where you're like, hey, Bradley, how do you feel?
Braddington.
How do you feel about being the third choice guy, and you help bring Zach Steffen along and all that? He might be like, yeah, I'm totally into that. That's like a service to my country. Or he might be like, I'm getting on a bit. I could do with resting up.
Now that you mention it, there's a chance that phone call may have already happened, and it was the no, if I'm not really going to be your number one, then I'm okay with sticking with Atlanta.
Which is totally fair.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So
not least because MLS doesn't always break for international break, right? So it would be he'd have to leave Atlanta United to go and be third choice and miss games.
Okay. Yeah. So with that in mind, okay, I'm okay with Ethan Horvath, but maybe I'm going to make it a personal quest that I'm going to say right now and immediately forget about to figure out which goalkeepers I think have the best distribution so that I can then advocate more strongly. But for right now, since I can't, I'll say Ethan Horvath.
We'll get a good look tonight, right? We're going to go and see DC United against New York Red Bulls, so we'll get a good look at Bill Hamid.
We will.
Yeah.
We will. Man, oh shoot, who did I just meet the other day who was telling me, sorry, this is a little off topic, but I forget who it was, but there's somebody telling me.
I've heard the show before.
Yeah. There's somebody who's telling me, shoot, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was because I feel like they might be listening, but they were talking about how they grew up playing soccer in New Mexico and their team was super duper good, and they just thought oh man, our team is awesome. And then Luis Robles was on that team, so he played with Luis Robles and was like, oh, that's why we're really good. So you reminded me that we're going to see the Red Bulls play. Reminds me that he is their goalkeeper.
Was that team we never seem to have the ball and yet we never seem to concede?
I'm guessing he was so good that he was probably that goalkeeper who also plays central midfield. We had one of those on our team.
Okay, you ready? So we've decided on Stefan, Johnson, and Horvath, Hamid, or Gazan. We're kind of okay, whoever it is.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I always, that is the position I least care about from the drama standpoint of I don't know about this one. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
Okay, let's go with fullbacks next.
Okay.
Fullbacks. So
Sergino Dest. Just going to yell that into the microphone.
Okay, so we're both on board. I've got the same. He's the first name I wrote down. Not just because I'm scared about him joining the Netherlands or anything like that, just because I've seen him play for Ajax. I like what I see. Specifically, DeAndre Yedlin's injured right now. He's still coming back from that groin surgery. That's why he hasn't been playing for Newcastle. Tyler Adams, who could have been a right back, is still 2 to 3 weeks away, like we talked about. It is the perfect time. Sergino Dest might be the best possible right back we can call up right now.
It's strange to say, but yeah, I think so.
All right.
And I also want to include Sergino Dest because I don't want Twitter to explode, I think is what would happen. Because he is the one that I think people are most excited to see and most want to see. He
fits the system in terms of an overlapping right back who will get forward and be like an auxiliary winger. Sergino Dest has played on the wing multiple times for Ajax.
I would be all right with that. I did toy around with the idea of creating a angry 11 of the or the roster that would make U.S. fans the most frustrated, and the right back was not Sergino Dest.
All right, so Sergino Dest we would say is our first choice right back, the guy we want to see. Who's your backup right back? Because this is a tougher one.
It's really tough because if we go with the what do I think Greg Berhalter does, I think there's a chance we see both Nick Lima and Reggie Cannon.
That's interesting.
But given that Nick Lima has been there from the very beginning, from that January camp, and played a variety of roles for Greg Berhalter, I do think that if he's choosing between those two, it's probably Nick Lima right now, but I kind of wouldn't mind either one.
So what happened in the Gold Cup is Nick Lima started the tournament.
Yeah.
Reggie Cannon finished the tournament. For me, they both look good.
Yeah.
I was surprised that Lima was dropped because he was playing well. Maybe not against strong opposition.
Yeah.
And then Cannon was really impressive when he came in. So I find it really hard to choose between them. I went with Cannon mostly just because that's who Berhalter had settled on towards the end of the tournament, and he really didn't put a foot wrong.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with that. I think it's strange for me because Lima has been there, but you're absolutely right that like Reggie Cannon finishing the Gold Cup as the starting right back, I also just kind of think I'm more excited to see Reggie Cannon than I am Nick Lima. I don't know if that
harsh, right?
I think it's definitely harsh, and I think it's just because I get excited about young attacking fullbacks who seem like they can handle it, and that's Reggie Cannon. Not to say that's not Nick Lima, but I think Reggie Cannon just gets the edge for me there.
It's weird that Lima's been playing left back for San Jose, so there's that maybe counts against him a little bit. I've literally got on my piece of paper Cannon/Lima. Should we just leave it at that?
I have the exact same thing. I have Lima/Cannon, but yes, other than that,
there's no need for us to go in circles about this.
No,
right? We're just happy with either one of those guys. We want Sergino Dest to start.
I mean, it is our nature to go in circles for another 5 minutes, but I feel like we should probably just talk left backs instead.
Okay, left backs. I've got. This is weird. This is a problem spot, right?
Yeah.
I've got Tim Ream.
Yep.
Because I thought he was actually very good in the Gold Cup. And I've got Miles Robinson, or maybe Aaron Long.
All right.
But even if either way, there's 4 centre backs we're going to pick. Robinson and Long, you can choose one of them to be left back, one of them to be centre back. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
So my backup left back is going to be Miles Robinson or Aaron Long, which is a total departure from me in terms of I always want my left back to be left footed. Robinson and Long are right footed. But the other options at left back in terms of who can play left centre back and be a defensive, head things away and be a centre back, and then who can, if we need to, then get forward and have some pace going forward and carry the ball forward. Only Long and Robinson kind of fit that mould to me. And so I'm willing to compromise on my footedness to go with Robinson or Long.
The only reason why I don't have one of those two there is because I tend to make my rosters by looking at 3 goalkeepers, remove that if it's a 23-man roster. Now we've got 20 positions left, so I kind of want cover in a variety.
Right? Yeah,
and so I have both of them.
Daniel Lovitz.
To give this away, I have both of them involved in my center back selections.
Okay.
So I could see what you're suggesting, because it also then allows you to have center back cover, but also fullback cover. Mm-hmm. So then you can have numbers elsewhere. The other opportunities I thought, options I had, Daniel Lovitz has been there before, so he's on that list. Anthony Robinson, only if you are going to do let's see if the left back can be an overlapping fullback. That said, we didn't really list any right backs who could become a right center back, so I still think that's less likely than I would like it to be.
Yeah, let's be realistic about what Berhalter does, right? Yeah.
Which means it's probably less likely that we see Anthony Robinson. The one that I had not thought about, you put it out to Twitter for people that you want to see included in this roster.
Oh, yeah, I just said make an argument for anyone you're interested in.
And I don't think it's going to happen, but I genuinely wouldn't mind if DeMarcus Beasley got one final call-up at left back. I wouldn't mind seeing Tim Ream
against Mexico,
and DeMarcus Beasley comes in, maybe plays the final 15,
this
does
is
a little bit more attacking.
Final season, right?
Yeah.
He's announced he's retiring at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. A game against Mexico.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Give him some minutes, get him one more ovation at the end, even if it's a loss, which I don't think. I hope it won't be, but even if it is, I like the idea of getting Beasley in there, and also maybe just kind of a lot of new faces in there, bringing a veteran who's been there a lot, who they can talk to, chat with.
Speaking of Anthony Robinson, why did neither of us feel comfortable putting him on the roster? I have my reasons. I'm interested in yours.
I mean, his track record thus far with the national team has been, for me at least, it's once bitten, twice burned, or whatever the saying is. That basically,
he was burned more times than that by Douglas Costa.
I think he's one. True. He's one that I think my desire for him to be a success with the national team sometimes blinds me to what he's actually doing. And I think if you watch a lot of the footage of him in his 1v1 defending, I think it's very much as we would expect based on his speed and not necessarily as much his defensive positioning. And I think with the Berhalter system...
It's much more about getting forward, right?
Exactly.
That's Anthony Robinson's deal.
Yes.
He's like a winger in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, which is fine if that's what they're going to use him for. But I think if you're looking for a left back to also have the positional discipline that I think Berhalter needs, I don't know if that's Robinson as much.
Potentially play left centre back. There's no way, right?
No. Yeah. And then
we did it for 2 minutes and he subbed him out pretty fast.
Yeah. So that's not great.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, it's maybe silly, but it does factor into it for me, is the fact that he's played 4 games for Wigan, who are one place outside of the relegation zone in the championship.
Okay.
I think they've got 1 draw, 3 losses this season.
It's good that he's playing in the championship.
Yeah.
And that's where Tim Ream's playing for Fulham right now, right?
Yep.
So they're playing sort of at the same level. But I'd be much more comfortable, just after his recent men's national team performances, with Anthony Robinson on the U23s.
1 win, 3 losses, excuse me. I had it in front of me. I forgot to check.
So Robinson on the U23s, I think.
Okay.
Not Anthony Robinson.
Anthony Robinson. Yeah, not Miles Robinson.
Miles Robinson's a whole different case.
And then DeMarcus Beasley is my backup. I'm just going to go with that. I'm cool with that. Whatever.
I've also, just to note on my roster, Sergino Dest could play left back, theoretically, and or Fabian Johnson, I'm going to include as one of my wingers later on, is a potential left back.
We'll talk Fabian Johnson when we talk Fabian Johnson.
If Nick Lima is the backup right back, he's also a potential left back. So there's a lot of flexibility happening with this roster.
Yes.
Before we talk centre backs, should we talk advertisers?
I believe we probably should.
All right. Well, today's show is sponsored by HelloFresh. Fresh roster, HelloFresh food. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. You get easy, seasonable recipes and pre-measured ingredients delivered right to your door. All you have to do is cook and enjoy. They pick the roster for you.
We're hoping Greg Berhalter's roster is a fresh roster. We hope that he picks the best roster for us. We hope it's not expired players and people who are out of date, people who are injured, people who are a little banged up, a little bruised. We don't want that. And HelloFresh doesn't want that either. Instead, they're delivering you fresh, quality ingredients, and you can basically cook new things that you wouldn't otherwise cook. We've talked about that before, but especially because you're getting seasonal stuff, you can kind of cook for the season as it is. So maybe if you haven't been able to enjoy summer, say, for example, your wife has been bar studying for the entire summer, 10 hours a day, and you were locked in the room with an Englishman, watching a bunch of soccer, but you want to, rediscover your passion for cooking, then they've got seasonal things that you can cook together and enjoy together.
So say goodbye to endless grocery store trips and takeout food. HelloFresh has you covered.
Yes.
You can break out of your rut with HelloFresh's 20-plus seasonal chef-curated recipes each week.
And the thing that I also appreciate about it is that they've basically got family recipes, calorie smart, vegetarian options.
Vegetarian,
but then
you
can get a vegetarian for the win. I'm about to conflict that, disagree with that by saying they've also got like more specialized menu options, menu series. So you could do Hall of Fame. You could do craft burgers. I like craft burgers. I wouldn't mind the craft burger dinner. I'm guessing you probably wouldn't dig it.
I'd be happy that you enjoy
it.
Okay. You can also add extra meals to your weekly order, as well as some yummy add-ons like garlic bread and cookie dough.
Garlic bread. I want some cookie dough. Can we do that right now? Can we get that delivered right now?
Maybe with today's second sponsor.
Okay, that works for me.
But you can order it via HelloFresh.
So for $80 off your first month of HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com/TSS80 and enter the code TSS80. Once again, that's HelloFresh.com/TSS80, and the code is TSS80 for $80 off your first month of HelloFresh.
Lovely. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's Total Soccer
I concur.
Show. All right, speaking of fresh, let's get to our centre-backs. Okay, so let me just say that I've had Tim Ream as my left-back, and then it's probably a centre-back who's going to play my backup left-back, if not Serginho Dest. So I've essentially got 5 centre-backs.
Okay.
I'll give them to you. It's the Gold Cup trio of Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, Matt Miazga. They all did great at the Gold Cup. I think it's time now that the tournament Gold Cup is over and we're looking ahead to the future, out with the old. So there's no need for Omar Gonzalez.
Yes.
Right? So I'm moving on from Omar Gonzalez.
I initially had him starting in both spots, but I'll agree with you this time.
John Brooks is back.
Yes.
John Anthony Brooks is back. He's playing for Wolfsburg. He is not injured. Personally, I would call him up, have him play one game, and then let him go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to bubble wrap him and not let John Brooks get hurt.
This is where my hopeful selection of DeMarcus Beasley kind of bites me, because I think probably what you've listed is more likely to have Aaron Long or maybe Miles Robinson be that left back cover.
He's my fifth. Miles Robinson is my fifth centre back. But I want to talk about Miles Robinson.
But I think also the point you've made there about John Brooks is pretty astute. That given the injury history, it does make sense that you play him one game, sit him the other, or even send him back. Yeah. Which then means you could replace him.
Back, I would say. So he can have a rest before he gets back to business with Wolfsburg.
Yeah. So maybe you replace him, and that's where, like for me, Walker Zimmerman is the centre back that I had missing out comes in. But I think it's also equally likely that you have those 5 centre backs. Yeah. You pull John Brooks out after one game, you still have 4 centre backs remaining.
Maybe Miles Robinson is the guy that plays for the U23 camp or trains with the U23s, and when John Brooks leaves, then you promote Miles Robinson up.
All right.
Yeah.
Genuine question about Miles Robinson for a moment, though, because I don't disagree with that, but I also wouldn't mind seeing him as a center back for the national team this time round. Is that us succumbing to pressure? Because he seemed to be the player that was like, if we had, I'm not saying we did, but if we had 80 responses to the question about who do you want to see, I think
at least
60 of them were Miles Robinson related, it felt like.
There was a lot of people suggested Miles Robinson and Darlington Nagbe.
Yeah.
And I think it is kind of testament
to... A lot of Atlanta avatars in those suggestions as well.
Exactly, yeah. I think it's testament to sort of how many Atlanta fans are on social media. Nothing wrong with that, but I think we shouldn't assume that this was a neutral pick. I would pick Miles Robinson based on watching Miles Robinson play.
Yeah.
Right? I think he's ready for the national team. I think if we're looking to the future, this is a guy who is absolutely performing in MLS in the same way that Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman are. Like, he deserves the same treatment, right? And I think he's ready. I think he brings just a lot of positives to the table. Here's what I like about Miles Robinson. Really hard to beat one-on-one. Someone's running at him, he's going to stick you, right? He's going to stick you. He's got good catch-up speed, but he's also just got good positioning to begin with. And then what I really like is how he carries the ball forward.
Yep.
Like, Miles Robinson can play himself out of pressure, like maybe go past someone, then play a short pass. And I think he would help us progress the ball in that way. Tim Ream does a similar thing, right? He doesn't go past people, but he picks like nice quick passes. It's like Tim Ream with a bit of extra acceleration and a bit more bravery in terms of going past people. Yeah. So those are the pluses for Miles Robinson.
I enjoyed that in the footage that I saw, the games I've seen, he has been the center back in that back three for Atlanta. And to me, like, that is a big deal to have a young player playing around very veteran players, MLS Cup winners, and he is the one that is kind of tasked with staying home and being responsible while the other ones go charging around. Yeah. Like, so I think he has the discipline that you want. But then
he can cover, right? If he's in the center, he can cover left, he can cover right. It's almost like having a sweeper.
But it is.
Except he doesn't sit deep.
It's because of that step out that you mentioned and the ability to step out, intercept a ball, and then carry on and make a smart 10 or 15 yard vertical pass.
Drop a shoulder and go past someone.
Like I like that he has the presence of mind and discipline to be that center back and stay home and like keep things tight and locked down, but also the ability and awareness to then step out on occasion and make that play. I think that variety to his game is what I found really enjoyable. I said this a long time ago when we last talked about him, and I stand by it. I don't love his long-range distribution. I think his like 15 to 20-yard vertical passing is pretty good, but I saw a lot of him aiming for the channels from that center back spot, and it was this kind of long diagonal ball that I think he gets way too much loft on, and it ends up getting cut out or put out for a throw-in.
Because more loft makes it slower. It takes longer to get to his destination.
Yes, and so it would be like the left wing back would sort of go creeping up that left touchline, and the right back would be maybe 20 yards away and wouldn't notice.
Right back?
Wouldn't notice that the Atlanta left wing back had cheated up. That long ball would come in, but then the right back, the opposition right back, could step through and win it or put it out of bounds because it hung in the air so long. So that part of his distribution I didn't love.
Frank de Boer needs to teach Robinson to ping.
Yes, exactly. We need some pinged balls, but the ones played vertically, the ability to like stride through, maybe get away from a little bit of pressure and then play a smart pass. I enjoyed that aspect of his game tremendously.
And then my slight gamble, which I admit is a gamble, is that if he plays left back, if it doesn't mean that we need to switch sides and the left back needs to get forward, right? I'm kind of gambling that I've never seen him do it because he's never played this position, that he could go dribbling up the left wing if needed.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be like a massive overlap and he's crossing loads of balls in, but I could see him beating someone up the sideline and playing a short pass to Pulisic or Areola or someone like that.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised that the one position you're willing to gamble on is center back. That's the one where, Daryl, I think you want to unleash the center backs and give them some freedom.
Well, it's more of a left back gamble. Like, we've got an unorthodox left back situation, so maybe it needs an unorthodox solution. Right? My other decision would be Aaron Long, who I think could do a similar sort of job. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I did want to add, we had a suggestion about Eric Palmer Braun. I looked him up, moved to Austria, Vienna on August 5th.
As Matt Herman pronounces
it. Is it Wien?
I mean, that's what Matt Herman says.
I trust him. Moved to Austria, Wien on August 5th. No appearances yet. I think he's only just kind of gotten into the rhems of training, so I wouldn't mind letting him stay, get into the team a bit more, but also
U23s?
Yeah, true. I also kind of want to move away from he's moved to Austria, we should give him a cap. We should call him up. It's sort of well, they're also not doing that great. Maybe let's let him gel and see how he does before we reward that move.
Cameron Carter-Vickers, we didn't mention.
He
just got a loan move to Stoke. I looked him up. He's only played one League Cup, EFL Cup game. So I don't think he's fully match fit, match ready. Mm-mm. And also, honestly, Brooks, Miazga, Long, Zimmerman, I think are better centre-backs at this point.
I think at the very least they're better center backs in what Greg Berhalter wants.
Yeah, in terms of passing at the back.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think Cameron Carter-Vickers is one who, if you're trying to outwork a physical forward, maybe that's where CCV comes in. He seems adept at sort of those aerial challenges, stepping to win aerial challenges and long balls over the top. But yeah, his distribution, again, from what I saw and have seen, remains not my favorite aspect of his game.
Fair enough. Final thing on centre-backs I want to say is, I'm guessing someone might suggest, hey, John Brooks is left-footed, how about he becomes the left-back / left centre-back? And then my argument would be nah. Yeah, exactly. Because one, his main strength is to be in the middle and just win everything that comes his way, like stepping and heading things away. And distribution from the middle, he's really great at the progressing the ball forward, nice forward breaking lines passes. But also, if he gets isolated against an attacker, if he's isolated against an attacker, I trust him a lot less to not get beat.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I worried that he would get beat, roasted out at left back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say because we don't have that same fear about Tim Ream. But but yes, I take your point all the same.
All right, so there we go. So we have, 8 defenders?
Yep.
3 goalkeepers. Let's move to midfielders.
All right.
Okay, let's start with the most controversial, maybe, position. The number 6,
Michael
the
Bradley.
sort of deepest line midfielder. Michael Bradley's on our rosters, right?
Yes.
Okay. Here's the weird thing. I've got Michael Bradley. I don't have Will Trapp.
So I have him on the short list solely because Will Trapp has been on that short list. He's been the alternate center back or central midfielder. He's captained the team under Greg Berhalter. So it seems likely to me that it will be Will Trapp. That said, I kind of want to see other people do that job.
I think it's... So I understand... And there's a big argument about this, but I understand the initial inclusion of Will Trapp and Gyasi Zardes on pretty much all of Greg Berhalter's rosters when available, because they're guys who have worked with Berhalter before, understand his system. So you've got two pieces of the team that already understand the system and can help everybody else get used to it. But I think ultimately, now that it's like the Gold Cup's over and we're starting the next phase, I think it's time to maybe move on and look elsewhere.
I agree.
Yeah.
I looked to Huddersfield because I was excited about Danny Williams. Danny Williams, no longer employed by Huddersfield.
No longer employed at all.
I did not know that. Released by Huddersfield at the end of the season. I assumed had been like picked back up by them or picked up by someone else.
Yeah.
Has not.
And here's the weird thing. Danny Williams, yes, is a number 6, is a defensive midfielder, but not in the way that Greg Berhalter wants, right?
Nope.
Greg Berhalter wants a guy who, this position, this Michael Bradley / Will Trapp position is, you're the tempo setter, you're the diagonal ball hitter, you're the distributor. That's not Danny Williams' game, right?
No.
Danny Williams' game is shutting things down.
Yep.
So I think, in a weird way, he's not a good backup anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
So then who do you think is a good backup?
So the way I've got this structured is, because there really is no other player who's that type of player that the US has that's Bradley or Trapp, and I think maybe Trapp is not quite up to standard.
Before anybody responds, aside from Tyler Adams, who once again is injured. So
maybe,
he's
but
not
he's
a
also a
consideration.
different type of player. But yeah, it's not an option this time around. So I would have Bradley and McKennie alongside each other, like we did in the Gold Cup. And Bradley's like stays home and McKennie starts alongside him, but they can then go forward. If Bradley gets injured or isn't selected, Weston McKennie is the guy I would try in that number 6 spot. So he's like, McKennie for me is Bradley's partner, but he's also, if things come to it, he's Bradley's backup and someone else plays alongside McKennie.
So far it seems like you're more inclined to have a greater variety of people on the roster to play a variety of positions. Like you're okay with the center back playing left back, or a right back playing left back.
It goes against the way I like to normally do things, but this is how I got the sort of... It's so there's any configuration I'm really, really happy with.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. And then did you consider Darlington Nagbe for the number 6, or do you have him in other spots?
So I've got Darlington Nagbe on my roster. I would have him as sort of McKennie's backup.
Okay.
I think his best possible role with the national team is as the more attacking of the midfielders, right? So Pulisic's role is like a little different because he's way farther forward. McKennie's role has been, it's a 4-3-3 sort of, right? But McKennie's role is to sometimes sit alongside Bradley. We defend in a 4-4-2, so it's those two. But to then go forward and be an attacking midfielder when we're in the attacking phase.
If Tyler Adams were fully fit, where would I'm asking you, like most like to see him play in this Greg Berhalter system?
Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing him at right back and in the inverted midfield role.
Okay.
I'd still want to see if that works. If not that, then probably in the McKennie role alongside Bradley.
So I think
but then McKennie in the Bradley role, maybe.
I asked that because this is the other aspect.
So McKennie is the 6, Adams is the 8. Just to be clear.
And I get that, and I think that is an important thing to remember. Is that is also what friendlies are supposed to be? Is the time to sort of not necessarily like change everything up, but look at opportunities or vulnerabilities and see what else can be brought in to fill them. And I don't mean Alejandro Bedoya as the holding midfielder. We don't want to do that again. But I do take your point that we've talked often about, like, how do you get Pulisic, McKennie, Adams into a midfield together, and like then you have other options for like, well, if you want Pulisic to play wide or what have you. But I like the idea of maybe replacing Bradley with Weston McKennie, a player who we've already seen for this team, but
just
maybe moving him back.
He maybe has the passing range of Bradley.
Yeah, and just see what he can do in that role as that sort of number 6 experiment for a game. I would not mind seeing that, and I think you've sold me on that.
Ooh,
surprisingly,
all right.
I didn't expect that.
I wasn't even trying.
But I think it's also. It sounds bad, but I think it's also because I can't shake the idea in my head that it will be Will Trapp. So I keep looking at it as like Will Trapp or Weston McKennie, and I think I'm more okay with seeing what Weston McKennie could do there. But again, it also then the approach you're taking, it allows you to bring like another midfielder, I think, because you've got like Weston McKennie starting, but also potentially covering in another spot.
Yep. Okay. So here's my full list then.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll get on to yours because I know I've been eating up a lot of time here.
No, please.
Michael Bradley, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, obviously, and that might be my.
You have him as your number 10.
That would kind of be my starting 3.
Yep.
Yeah. And then when we attack, it's like Pulisic and McKennie are the 2 attackers, right?
Yep.
2 attacking midfielders. So that's 3. Paxton Pomykal, call him up. I say he can play the McKennie role. He could maybe play the Pulisic role.
That's where
he can also play on the wing if you need him to. Paxton Pomykal is dangerous everywhere.
And he could also he could play the number 10 role.
Yep.
Pulisic could then play the wide role if you wanted to try that
if you
as
wanted.
well. Yep.
Darlington Nagbe, it's now or never, right? I've watched some recent games. He's in form.
Yep.
I love the way he carries the ball forward. I like his. I think he's really like reliable in possession, which suits Greg Berhalter, but also he doesn't hit dangerous passes, but I think he's dangerous on the dribble, right? So passing that keeps possession, but then when he does that Nagby glide with the ball, he's like suddenly like, you don't think he's like...
Forgot about the Nagby glide.
He's not really going that fast, but he's suddenly gone past three people because he's so sort of graceful with the ball, right? Nagby, I think, could have a role to play in this team, not as the number 6, that's insane, as the number 8 or maybe the number 10.
I think the reason why... and it was suggested on Twitter, which I think maybe is what put it in my head, him being the number 6, but it's also the case that historically, for the national team at least, the criticism about Nagby has been his failure to sort of
defend.
I've
heard him referred to as a turnstile.
Well, see, I think of him, that's definitely true, good point, but I think of it more of like the failure to produce in the final third. That it's always like, oh, he doesn't take shots, he doesn't really create chances, and so I also don't like the idea of him becoming that like 8 who becomes a 10 or something like that, because I worry about his chance creation, but I don't know if that's an outdated way of thinking about Darlington Nagby. And so with that in mind...
I think of him as more a connector and a provider for other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe if we're not doing the right back becomes the central midfielder, center mid becomes the other number 10, and it is just kind of more of a number 8, then maybe that works better.
Pushed high all the time, right? Which isolates them up there.
Yeah. So I'm okay with Nagby. The one that I looked at with like for a decent amount of time was Alfredo Morales, which is a player that we get like every now and then people get very vehement that Alfredo Morales should be playing for the US.
I watched him for Dusseldorf when I was watching Stefan.
Yeah.
I wasn't massively impressed. I wasn't unimpressed. He looked like he was basically holding his own in the Bundesliga.
He was.
He's tough as well. He's a really tough defensive player.
Okay. So here's what I saw. I saw the reasons why he would fit really well in some of the positions. I think specifically the Weston McKennie role. And I also saw why he probably doesn't get looks. Because he's 29 years old. You would think he's a bit more mobile than Michael Bradley. But there were a lot of moments when I saw that sort of like, he steps to the ball and just gets cut past. And then, like, there's literally one where he gets beat on the touchline, and you can see him, like, throw his head back as he starts to sprint in that sort of, like, oops, I made a mistake. And just seeing that, like playing for Dusseldorf on the touchline, but also in the center midfield, it was just a bit too familiar of that, like, oh, he's getting run past. And I think Michael Bradley, we like so much about his distribution and what he brings with, like, the kind of veteran leadership aspect of things.
That's the trade-off, right? We like the distribution so much, we will accept some of the defensive
Exactly. And seeing Alfredo Morales have those moments where he kind of goes charging out 10 yards 3 seconds too late, those moments make me slightly concerned for his discipline coming into a system like this. That said, he is very much like the patrolling disruptor who will battle for every single ball, chase things down, press, knock people off the ball, not afraid to commit those professional fouls when you want to slow things down a little bit.
This is a weird thing with the Berhalter system, right? There isn't a role for a pure destroyer.
No. There's not.
It's odd.
Yeah. And so I think historically he would have been that other midfielder, the Jermaine Jones role. I think he fits that really, really well. But I worry about his defensive positioning combined with I didn't see that next level passing that I think we want for somebody who maybe would sit deeper like a Bradley. So I don't know where he fits in with what Berhalter wants to do. I think probably it's in that McKennie role, but that's me like kind of making that fit a little bit. So in the end, I didn't include him for that reason.
I'll give you my final name.
Yeah.
Duane Octavius Holmes.
Disagree.
Okay. Let me make the case.
Sure.
He was injured, right? We saw glimpses of him in the build-up to the Gold Cup, right?
Yeah.
Then he got injured. Took him a while to come back from that. I think 2 days ago, he played 45 minutes for Derby's under-23s, which suggests, like, okay, he's getting back to match fit. The game is September 6th. It's August 21st as we record this. I think there's enough time for him to play a game for Derby. And then I'd almost honestly just get him in the roster, have him train with the team, and if he doesn't play, he doesn't play. But I was so hyped about what I saw from Duane Holmes in those 30-minute cameos in the, Jamaica and Venezuela games. I just want him involved. Like, even if he isn't quite fit enough to take the field, I want him on this roster. I want Duane Holmes to be involved with the national team.
I really want Duane Holmes to be involved in the national team. I can't shake that aspect, that he has not played this season except for with the U23s and is returning from injury, not at full fitness. So you're calling him in basically because we liked some cameos that we saw. We don't know if Greg Berhalter liked those moments. I would assume he did.
But he wanted to keep him around.
But for me, I think it's if I'm going to advocate, like, no, you've got to be playing a little bit. You can't just have made a move. You've got to be fit. It's harder for me to think that one makes sense.
What if he plays...
Even if he is middle named Octavius.
What if he plays 30 minutes for Derby this weekend? Would you be more convinced, or do you need like 3 90-minute spells?
I think I need him starting. I think I need him to start for Derby.
To prove his fit?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. Yes, I think so, because that even cements the idea that, like, when he's fit, he's a starter for Derby.
Yeah.
Which is what I think I would
he
want.
is, for sure.
I mean, I want that cemented. And then
I
maybe I
guess
feel a
as a
little
new
bit
coach,
better.
we have to find that out.
Yeah, and then there's going to be Wayne Rooney, so who knows what's going to happen.
That's true. Okay, to give you my midfield one more time, it's Bradley, Pamukal, McKennie, Pulisic, Holmes, Nagbe. That's my 6 for 3 midfield spots. And then I would turn it over to you to let me know who are yours, and I'm perfectly willing to let go of Duane Holmes because you've semi-convinced me that it's maybe a reckless idea.
So I have right now as my central midfield options, I've got Pulisic, I've got Pamukal, I've got McKennie, I've got Bradley, I have Nagbe in there.
Okay.
And
then Duane Holmes, and we agree. We shake hands and we just walk off into the sunset.
I think there's an argument for Duane Holmes only because if we have Weston McKennie playing potentially as the backup number 6, I don't know if then we have Nagbe as the number 8, but then we don't necessarily have a backup number 8. But I still think Duane Holmes, with the injury coming back, I maybe look at somebody like a Sebastian Lletget, who we know can play central, can play wide, has been playing for the Galaxy, has returned from injury. So maybe you put him in there, and that gives you more depth in the midfield and wide.
Just like Dr. Dre thought people had, I forgot about Sebastian Lletget.
Did Dr. Dre also rap about that?
No, it was people forgetting about Dre.
I mean, I know that. I'm just wondering if maybe the remix was forgot about Sebastian Lletget or something. I mean, it's California. You don't know.
But I did forget about Sebastian Lletget.
Yeah.
He's always he's also a Berhalter favourite, it seems. He was a Bruce Arena favourite when Arena was the national team coach.
We don't need to talk about that.
And just keeps getting hit by injuries, right? So, and he's someone who can play either of those midfield roles and contribute on the wings if needed. And I'm always impressed when I see Sebastian Lletget play for Galaxy, and especially for the men's national team. I don't need much convincing that a fit Sebastian Lletget is superior to just back from injury Duane Holmes.
So Daryl hates Duane Holmes now and supports Sebastian Lletget. No, I'm with you that if everybody's healthy, I have Duane Holmes in there. He is not, so Sebastian Lletget comes in for me.
We haven't mentioned Mihailovich or Roldan. I guess our feelings about both are well documented through the Gold Cup.
I think so.
Mihailovich gets knocked around too easily. Roldan, we think, is maybe just not quick enough with the ball, and his passing is sometimes a little loose because, and we heard this from Seattle fans, I think we already talked about this on the show, but it's worth mentioning again, when he's asked to play in one of those number 10-ish roles, he's receiving the ball higher up the field than usual with his back to goal. He normally starts a lot deeper for Seattle, as part of a defensive midfield too.
All right.
So it's just maybe the system is not a good fit for Christian Roldan.
I feel like we think of him as being very likable, and we like Seattle fans. Yeah. So we're trying to be very delicate with this one.
I also see him play for Seattle, and I see him this guy looks great, but maybe it's just not a good fit for the Berhalter system.
All right, not a great fit.
We didn't talk much about Pamukal. I quickly made the case for him in terms of he can play anywhere.
I just have him in there. That's kind of where I am with it. I've enjoyed literally everything I've seen from him.
Yeah, right. Wins the ball back, moves the ball quickly. It's hard to shake off the ball. Creative passing, dribbling at people. He looks like an international soccer player.
He does. And even these minor moments that probably shouldn't matter but do stick out to me is seeing him at All-Star when he comes in, makes his cameo in the All-Star game against Atletico Madrid. He was just the off-the-ball movement and trying to find pockets of space and trying to make runs.
Trying and succeeding.
I don't know why I'm making it sound like it didn't work, but more so that he was really looking for it and looking for opportunities to exploit space, to exploit vulnerabilities in a game in which some players were trying to do that, some players were trying to shoot, some players were just there to have fun. So maybe that's a grain of salt there, but just Pamukal's work ethic and his desire to find opportunities, I feel like is a thing that I want to see from U.S. players, and that kind of scrap that he brings in, because I want to emphasize not a big dude by any stretch of the imagination, so that he then battles the way he does exactly makes him.
It's like he's a big guy with a small avatar.
That.
What about the idea that the U23 team Pamukal will be central to it, so maybe he needs to be with the U23 camp to make sure we qualify for the Olympics in March?
I just don't care. I really don't. It's just
you do care whether or not we qualify for the Olympics.
I do, but I think again it's all with an eye towards building the strongest national team we can.
Yeah.
And if Paxton Pamukal is potentially going to be in that squad, if we're looking at a 2022 World Cup and Pamukal's in there, then I want him to be in there.
Yeah.
And yes, he could still then go play for the U23s, but I also think he is good enough that he can miss this camp and still come in, do the camp before qualification, and be just fine.
You just walk in and be like, Paxton's here, everybody.
Yes. Please don't refer to yourself in the third person, Paxton.
All right, so it sounds like we agree on Bradley, Pamukal, McKennie, Pulisic, Nagbe, Lletget.
Yes.
That's our midfield 6. Who's missed out here? Got to mention Twitter, for example, Joel Senora,
Yep.
who is playing for Arsenal, the Argentinian Arsenal in the Primera División, on loan from Talleres, and has scored 2 goals in 2 games.
Good pronunciation. I mean that sincerely. I know, it was good.
It sounded confident, right?
Like, I feel like a couple of months ago it would have been Talleres, and then the Hooligans would have messaged you.
He is one I definitely would say U23s is the way to go, right? Because it's not enough of a body of work to be like, oh, straight to the senior national team with you, sir.
No, probably not. And then we have the kind of usual suspects who miss out, like Russell Canal as an example. That's a player that people want to see. Probably doesn't fit with what Berhalter wants.
I think
is maybe also injured, but those types of...
I might be wrong. I think he has a punctured lung.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get him in there just in case. If Duane Holmes gets in there, then maybe Russell Canal deserves to be. All I mean to say is
Don't
that...
say that's gospel. I may be wrong about that.
Then, instead of using him as the template, I should have said, Kellen Acosta as another one who, just doesn't seem like he's going to fit with what Berhalter wants. January camp obviously did not go well, so probably not going to be in there either.
Final guy I want to talk about before we move on. I don't want to linger on midfield too long. Emerson Hyneman.
Yeah, had him on the list.
Has apparently played really well with Atlanta United. So Emerson Hyneman?
Yeah, at whose expense though?
Others are ahead of him.
That does feel like where things are now.
Yeah,
but maybe give it a couple months. We see how well he does with the latter stretch of the season, and then into the playoffs, and maybe we start seeing some more Emerson Hyneman with the national team.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
All right,
so we've got our goalkeepers, we've got our fullbacks, our centre backs, we've got our central midfielders,
/ maybe occasionally wide players,
and we have another advertiser. Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Postmates. Postmates, when you need red wine at 4 p.m.
If the United States men's national team kicked off at 1 p.m., maybe you need that.
Sushi at 9 p.m. or a breakfast burrito at 8 a.m.
You got early kickoff for a Premier League game, maybe you want a breakfast burrito delivered.
Yes. Postmate it. Postmate delivers. Postmates also delivered Soccer 101. I want to think about it this way.
Okay, we can think about that, and then I want to think about something else.
Okay, but so if people don't know, our spin-off show, Soccer 101, the way we were able to do that is that Postmates agreed to sponsor it before it had even launched. So Postmates took a gamble on us. They supported us.
They did.
So we would like our listeners to support Postmates.
We really would. And we think you should, because they've taken the gamble on us, but also because they've given us interesting copy. And that's what I want to talk about for a moment, Daryl. Which thing do you think is more likely, if we're going with what they've written here? Is it that you woke up and needed the ibuprofen, or you needed a breakfast burrito, you went back to sleep, and then you woke up and had the ibuprofen at 10 a.m.?
I didn't mention it, but on the list also was a possibility of ibuprofen at 10 a.m. because they will go to a pharmacy for you, pick something up, and deliver it to you.
But I want to know, is it breakfast at 8 a.m., went to sleep, woke back up, had the ibuprofen, then you woke up and you're like, I need a little bit of a hair of the dog that bit you, and then you felt okay to have sushi at 9?
You think this is like all the story of one day?
Or is it
it's
the
like
story?
A Hemingway story.
Is it like woke up, had the breakfast burrito, then work's getting done, have a little glass of wine at 4 p.m., have sushi at night, but then maybe you had a little bit too much red wine, so you have the ibuprofen the following morning.
I think you just rinse and repeat.
Okay.
You just
These 4 things.
So you've got Postmates 4 deliveries a day, and you've got your schedule here. Yeah.
Yes, but if you're craving other things aside from the 4 things that we've mentioned so far, Postmates can deliver. They're the largest on-demand network in the United States, and they offer delivery from all restaurants, groceries, and as Daryl said, pharmacies if you need them to pick up some ibuprofen for a headache, or for me, anti-nausea medication.
I would go acetaminophen anyway. But 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, Postmates will bring you what you need within the hour.
You can download the app for iOS or Android for free, browse local restaurants and businesses, and then track your delivery in real time.
I've done it.
My favorite type of video game.
I've done it. Yeah, I've seen Thai food coming from Mum Siam.
Okay.
And you see the driver pick it up on the screen, and you see the car coming towards you, and you just rub your hands because you're getting that ginger stir fry.
Does your level of hunger dictate your frustration with the route they're taking?
I mean, it's a pretty straightforward route.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. It should be. It should be.
I mean, if they took some wrong turns, yes, but my Postmates driver took all the right turns. He made all the right moves.
Postmates would never leave you like that. And for a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days. To start your free deliveries, download the app and use the code SOCCER.
And it's worth stating, it is absolutely free to download the app and to hit the promo code button and enter the word soccer.
Yep.
So you can support us, support Postmates by doing just that. So yeah, it's $100 with the code soccer, $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days when you download the Postmates app.
Anything you need, anytime you need it, Postmate it. Download the Postmates app and save with the code soccer. And I would add, final thing here, is that even if you're not necessarily going to use Postmates or you're haven't used that service before, but you may end up using it, I would say download it, put in the code, then you have the $100 just sitting there when you decide to explore further the Postmates opportunities.
Within 7 days.
Within 7 days.
You got a week. You got a week to get yourself some food.
I'm fine with that.
And one more time, Postmates did sponsor Soccer 101.
They sure did.
If you haven't heard Soccer 101 yet, everybody who has listened to it has given it really good reviews, including Taylor's dad. So please go and listen to Soccer 101. Just search for it in whatever app you're using to listen right now. Search Soccer 101. It will pop up.
All right. So thank you very much to Postmates for sponsoring for Soccer 101 and for sponsoring today's episode.
Yep.
I have an update before we move on to the attackers, Daryl.
This is from David Gass?
David Gass. I would take Cannon because I think he's younger, has a higher ceiling, and better on the ball as Greg Berhalter develops his style. But I think Lima, if he finishes the year playing well at left back, could be a legit option there.
That's interesting, but I thought you asked about goalkeepers and distribution.
I think Sean Johnson right now in Major League Soccer is the one that's a legitimate possibility for the U.S. men's national team. But Steven, not just for feet, but overall, head and shoulders the best goalkeeper. Also, if anyone says Guzan, I will slap them. So I guess I'm glad that maybe I pulled back on Guzan a little bit so I don't end up getting slapped by David Gass.
No, I think if you listen back, you're getting slapped next time you
No, I think we ended it with any option that of Ethan Horvath, Brad Guzan, and Bill Hamid. I was okay with any of those three.
Okay.
I think that's what we agreed on, at least. I'm genuinely not trying to waffle here, though I don't really want to get slapped by David either.
Let's move on
to
our wingers.
Okay.
I've got 4 wingers and 2 strikers with my 6 spots left.
I think I'm
check out?
somewhere in there.
All right. I feel like I keep going first and giving you mine. Would you like to go first just to rebalance this?
Sure. I've got Tyler Boyd. I would like to see called
playing
back
for Besiktas, right? He's been playing start of the season.
Yes.
We loved what we saw during the Gold Cup. We think there was some sort of injury that they wouldn't tell us about.
We hope there was an injury.
Because they were trying to make sure his move to Besiktas went through.
That could be. I didn't think about it from that perspective. Yeah. But yes, we've heard that potentially there was an injury. So I'm going to hope that was the case, and that's why we saw less of him.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed everything I did see of him, and I felt like even the times that he was clearly not quite executing Berhalter's game plan, it was still exciting. It was still exciting, but it was also the type of thing that you can easily tweak, in my perspective. Not he is doing nothing that's been asked of him.
There's so much pace and attacking intent and a willingness to shoot on target there that I think Tyler Boyd is absolutely someone I want to see starting for the US national team.
I agree. That's why I have him there. I think I'm very confident Paul Arriola will be included. I don't necessarily have him as my starter because I have Timothy Weah as my starter on that left side.
So that's 3 wingers.
That's 3. Mm-hmm.
You have a 4th?
I have question mark as my 4th winger.
Who's he play for?
It could be a number of different people who question mark plays for. It could be Jordan Morris, who plays for Seattle. Yeah. It could be Julian Green, maybe trying him in a wider position than we've seen him play for the U.S. before.
Yeah, or not.
Or not, which leads me to, we mentioned him previously, Fabian Johnson.
Yes.
I would not mind seeing Fabian Johnson brought back in because we haven't seen him for Berhalter and because he is still getting minutes for Gladbach, who are going to be one of the best teams in the Bundesliga and still seems to be an important figure for that team from everything I've seen on the field, remains so. Even if it's only 30 minutes for the first game of the Bundesliga season, I'm kind of okay with it.
To me, Fabian Johnson is key to my roster because he offers at least a little bit of depth at right back and left back.
Yep.
And even if we do the thing where, say, Dest has to play left back, and suddenly we're short of one right back because Dest is already being used at left back, Kelly O'Hara style, maybe.
Yeah.
And the way Gilelis set it up, Johnson can go back and fill in. But I still much prefer him as an attacking winger.
I do too. I think he probably does as well.
Yeah.
All right, so those are my 4 then. You've helped me fill that final one in. Where were you?
Arriola, Boyd, Weah, Johnson.
Yeah. So let's then, if we agree on all those, let's talk a little bit more about maybe Timothy Weah, because we had that question about, is it bad that he starts the first game, doesn't start the second for Rennes?
For Lille?
I always want to say Rennes. I don't know why I want to say that, but yes, for Lille. Is it because Rennes beat PSG and then Lille played PSG?
It's because you're excited about Star Wars: The Last Skywalker.
That makes more sense.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Hasn't Skywalker already risen? Isn't the entire galaxy at this point about the Skywalkers? Despite the extended universe's best efforts?
I think it's possible that Kylo Ren becomes a Skywalker.
Okay. Well, isn't he technically? Because isn't Leia Luke's
That's what I'm saying,
sister?
yeah.
And then...
So he reclaims his heritage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing here. Okay.
He goes back to his maiden name.
I mean, I just don't know how many spoilers we're doing right now, but I'm also okay with it.
These aren't spoilers because we haven't seen the movie.
More so maybe other people haven't even seen the new two.
All right, well, that's their problem.
Of this trilogy. It's all very confusing. Whatever. Okay. Star Wars is around.
Please send your complaint emails to you should have seen it already at TotalSoccerShow.com. Yeah. So, Tim Weah, he didn't start the last game for Lille. He came off the bench. He started the first game, and he's playing regular first-team football, and we've seen him before, and this is why I think he has a really good chance of being involved. He was given the choice, right, this past summer of, do you want to play the U20 World Cup or do you want to play at the Gold Cup?
Yep.
That means he chose the U20 World Cup, right, which is a choice.
Because he wanted to play in a World Cup, which I very much enjoy.
Right? Fine, no complaints about it. It means Greg Berhalter thinks he's ready for senior tournament football anyway, so let's do it. Is what I say. And honestly, the possibility of a wing with Tim Weah on it and then Christian Pulisic as like the left of centre attacking mid. I love Tim Weah's pass and move connecting stuff. Like my favourite stuff with Tim Weah is when he sort of plays a quick 1-2 with someone. That combo of Pulisic and Weah, even if only for 30 minutes, I think could be absolutely glorious.
No arguments here, my friend. All right, so we've got more or less the same. We do have the exact same for wide attackers.
Yeah.
Then up top, I'm going Josie Altidore because that's the answer. It's going to be Josie Altidore. That's who Greg Berhalter will call in. 10 goals.
Let's hope so, right?
16
Josie Altidore is a
games.
magnificent centre forward.
Yeah, Josie Altidore is getting called in. Then again, I have the blank with a number of names underneath of it.
Oh, I just wrote Josh
what I want to talk
Sargent.
about. Okay, so you have Josh Sargent in there, and that is probably who I think it ends up being, for me at least.
And they start a game each.
I have him first on my list of alternates.
Okay.
And then there's the now somewhat familiar names like Andrea Novakovic, who is playing for Reading's reserve.
U23.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
grain of salt there. We saw him get mentioned, though. You've got Giassi Zardes, who's been in the mix before. I did enjoy... I mean, it's fewer games played for Josie Altidore, but there was a whole think piece written about how like Giassi Zardes isn't performing to like designated player potential and needs to score more goals. He has 9 goals. Josie Altidore has 10. Admittedly, Giassi Zardes has played, I think, 6 more games or been involved in 6 more games. And also, Josie Altidore is just the better striker. So I think it's Josie Altidore, number 1 for me. And then I think when you look at... Those are just 2 of the options that I mentioned, but they're really not as impressive and I think representative of the kind of lack of depth up top. I think it probably does end up being Josh Sargent, even if he's not yet getting the consistent first-team minutes for Werder Bremen and scoring the consistent goals we want to see.
But 10
I
minutes
still
off
think
the
he's
bench,
the best option.
10 minutes off the bench this past weekend. One of their strikers, I've forgotten the name, one of their strikers just got injured, so he's going to be more involved.
Yep.
So I think Josh Sargent's season is going to be fine in terms of a teenager. Is he 20 yet? But a young guy playing for a Bundesliga team. Also, we've seen him in a men's national team jersey. He almost made the Gold Cup roster, right? He just missed out on the Gold Cup roster.
Yep.
And I understand, and I know people were really mad about it, but I do understand the idea of, okay, tournament football, Altidore hasn't played for me before and isn't fully fit. I want at least one striker that understands my system already. I get why Zardes was that choice.
Yep.
This is not a tournament, right? This is the beginnings of building for the future. That's why Sargent over Zardes is an obvious choice this time around to me. Right?
No arguments here, my friend.
Okay.
No arguments here.
There has been an argument I've seen from someone I respect on Twitter suggesting that the best thing we could do is leave Sargent and Dest with their teams over the international break, let them work with the left-behind players, the leftovers, and establish themselves further. I'm not sure I'm convinced by that because I think if you're already part of the first-team squad, you've already done it, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense if you're a reserve player and you get to play with the first-team squad while everyone's on international duty, but if you're already there, it's kind of okay, right?
Yeah, and it's also like Dest is the one that I am even less okay with that argument just because like he plays for Ajax, a club who will have lots of players go back to their national teams for the break. So
it almost raises his status to be like, he's one of those guys that went and played international duty, right?
Yes, that. But then the second part of that is also like, if you're Ajax, like, yeah, great, he performed really well in training while all of our senior players were away.
Yeah.
It maybe helps a little bit, but it's also sort of like, well, we'll see what happens when the good guys come back, and then does he keep going? And I think the same for Josh Sargent. I do think it helps his confidence, it brings him in, and at a time when I think I talked about this with you, I think on the Weekend Review show, that like it does feel like he's sort of with the way Werder Bremen played this past weekend, some of the injuries you already mentioned, it does feel like he is in line to get a start soon. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts this weekend.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he only gets 30 minutes, but still I expect him to be involved. And I think if that's the case, and then he gets that call-up from the national team, I think it only strengthens his reputation of the club.
All right, so we have it then, right? Our forwards are Sargent and Altidore.
Yep.
Anyone else who had a shout for you?
I mean, just the ones I mentioned, players like Jesse Zardes and Novakovic, but I think those are the ones that you sort of look at and you could see why there's an argument for them, but I don't think that argument is stronger than Altidore or Sargent being involved.
So looking ahead, this is Mexico, September 6th. It's a big game, right?
Yeah.
It's a really big game
Mexico.
Because it's Mexico, and because it's our chance to get revenge for the Gold Cup. It also, like the roster we've picked, I think it has enough of guys that have played Berhalter's system. There's enough institutional knowledge there, and there's just enough. I don't even call it experimentation, but promotion of the young players, Dest, Pamukal, Sargent, that it freshens it up a little bit, but without it being a sort of youth team roster that we should be scared is facing Mexico's senior team. So I think we've gone with a nice balance here.
I agree. I want to ask you though. Let's go away from Twitter. Let's go away from like the reaction of Twitter. Is there anybody that would really bum you out? Like if you saw them in there, like would it require it being like 5 or 6 players called in, and 5 of the 6 players we've discussed not being called in for you to be actually disappointed by a roster?
I think Zardes over Sargent this time would be really tough to take unless there's some injury or other possibility. And I think the absence of Serginho Dest would be tough to take because he looks ready. He looks ready for international football. Yeah,
I think because everybody else is so likely to be called in that I think those are the two. Maybe like Pamukal not getting a look would bum me out a little bit. It wouldn't then make me like slam a pen with anger. I think Serginho Dest would be the number one thing that would make me do that.
Tyler Boyd.
I say that because I have a pen in my hand.
Tyler Boyd, I would be confused. Like, I would then be thinking, oh, did something happen at the Gold Cup? Was there some disagreement with Berhalter and, like, Boyd is frozen out?
Yeah.
If Boyd's not involved and there's no injury-related reason... I know he had that collision with the Sivasspor goalkeeper, right? But I think the goalkeeper came off worse. I hope the goalkeeper's okay, but I think Tyler Boyd's okay. So,
I mean, he alone has made you learn how to pronounce Sivasspor. So I think that should right there give him the credit he needs.
How about he plays for Besiktas?
That's also good.
It's not bad, right?
Yeah. You don't do the way most of your countrymen pronounce it, so I appreciate that.
Just take our best guess.
Yes.
So yeah, if Tyler Boyd's not there,
I think it's usually with an English accent. It's Besiktas.
Do you know TalkSport?
Besiktas, I think.
I can't remember who it was. There was a TalkSport host who was saying he's sick of everyone overpronouncing foreign names correctly. Why not just say them the way we say them in this country? That was his actual argument. I don't remember who it was, and I'm kind of glad I'm not even going to give him the credit.
What are the chances he voted for Brexit? 100% or 1,000%?
I mean, 1,000,000%.
Okay. Oh, great stuff. Great stuff. Well, in addition to the names he's already annoyed about people mispronouncing, there's a whole generation to come of names that he'll be annoyed when people try to pronounce. And those names are often involved in the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
All right.
I got us there.
You sure did.
I started us on a journey. I think I brought it home.
You did.
We've got several scouting reports to get to.
Then you turned around and pointed at the path you've made.
I mean, sometimes you got to be obvious, Daryl. I don't like to toot my own horn, but toot toot. Few scouting reports to get to, many more to get to for the rest of the week.
Ooh, look at the first one.
But let's go with Brian Hoysa scouting Serginho Dest, 18-year-old American right back for Ajax. Dest came on at halftime in the second leg of Ajax's Champions League qualifier against Greek champions PAOK. He picked up a yellow card while holding his own and not committing any major errors in what was a tense half.
Yeah, because 0-0 is... they've since played another team.
I believe they have,
Champions League.
They're good to go.
So we might get a later update.
Yeah.
But Mazraoui, the other right back, was sent off after Dest came on. So more Champions League for Serginho Dest. Ryan Marzak is scouting Pione Sisto. Pione Sisto? The 24-year-old Danish striker for Celta Vigo. Ryan says Sisto had an offer to move to England prior to the close of the window, but opted to stay in Spain. He explained on Instagram that he values the relevance and depth of football over money. I assume it was a football job he was offered in England.
Yeah, I would assume so. Let's hope so. As a chef. He was offered a chef position.
Real estate.
Turned it down. Kaz Tidrick scouting Robbie Mertz, 22-year-old American midfielder for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Robbie continued his run of fantastic form in the USL by snagging 2 assists in the Riverhounds' 3-2 win over Swope Park Rangers. The first assist came when he took a corner kick just 7 minutes into the game. The second in the 51st minute after sidestepping several Swope Park players and switching the play over to the right side for fellow youngster Anthony Velarde to slot it home.
I've got a visual image of him sidestepping several players with just one move.
Yeah, that checks out.
Like a sidestep with a packing stat of 4. Jeff Markman is scouting Rhys Nelson, the 19-year-old English attacker for Arsenal. Jeff says Rhys Nelson earned his second career Premier League start at left wing in Arsenal's 1-0 win away to Newcastle and acquitted himself well in rainy St James's Park, looking every bit the part of a reliable option for the Gunners in attack. Rhys Nelson's direct running at pace and ability to keep the ball moving forward when the game slows down are assets that should keep him finding game time, even if Arsenal do settle on Aubameyang, Lacazette and Pepe as the first choice front three. For the record, Jeff says, this casual observer is sceptical that it is the best move to play both of the team's first-choice strikers at the same time, given virtually no backup, but I digress. You sure did, Jeff. You sure did.
Jeff Markman is also scouting Jeff Ryan Adelaide, the 21-year-old French midfielder for Angers. Did I get that one? How would you do it?
If I was that TalkSport host, I'd say Angers.
All right. For Angers, Ryan Adelaide... that's about as English as I can get that one, I think. Got his season off to a strong start by scoring the equalizing goal in Angers. 3-1 come from behind victory over Bordeaux. Bordeaux, before we get letters. Ryan Adelaide arrived unmarked in the box after a run from midfield on the break and calmly volleyed a nice cross into the net. Ryan Adelaide started on the right side of a midfield 2 in Angers 4-1-4-1 formation and also got the assist for Angers' third goal.
Thank you. Thank you for ending on a high note. Ryan Downey. I always want to call him Ryan Downey Jr.
That's fair.
Scouting Zion Jones, I think. Zion Jones, the 18-year-old American winger for the Charlotte Independents. Ryan says Jones was subbed on in the 71st minute in Charlotte's 3-3 draw with Loudoun United. Though he was brought on mostly for defensive work, his attacking play was positive. He started several attacks from midfield and was mere inches away from getting his head on a cross that really should have been out of reach. Guy can jump. Unfortunately, it seems like Jones has been out of contention for a starting spot since late spring. Man, Zion Jones came back from Schalke for this.
That's a big unfortunately to end on, I have to say.
It is, right? It's like he just snuck that in right at the end.
Anurag Anjaria scouting Andrea Novakovic.
The aforementioned.
22-year-old American striker for Reading. You beat me to saying aforementioned. Well done, sir.
We spent too much time together.
Novakovic, we do, has started the season strongly, but also not enough at the same time. Scoring in 3 preseason games and recently bagging a hat trick and assist for the Reading U23s against the Newcastle U23s. Rough life for Newcastle right now. Mm-hmm. He only saw the field in garbage time in Reading's championship opener against Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, he did see the field, though?
Mm-hmm.
And he actually stepped on it.
In garbage time.
Yeah. Right, well, that's better than I thought.
Yeah.
Elijah Chappell is scouting Joe Willick, 18-year-old English midfielder for the Arsenal. Elijah says, Joe started as the central attacking midfielder in Arsenal's opening match against Newcastle, which Arsenal won 1-0. Willick stayed high up the pitch and made 2 good runs with the ball that put the defence under pressure. He would have made a third, but was horse-collar tackled by Newcastle defender Lascelles in the middle of the park.
It means like grabbing the back of the jersey, pulling backwards.
Oh,
yeah,
I see,
the neck of the jersey, I should add. Yeah. Final report comes from Dylan Tilbury, scouting Cole Bassett.
Bobby Warshaw's favourite.
Yeah, the 18-year-old American midfielder for the Colorado Rapids. Also Travis Clark, I think. So he's got some admirers, does Cole Bassett. Bassett has been an unused sub in the last 3 Rapids games, which includes the dramatic 6-3 win against Montreal and a 2-1 upset win over the surging San Jose. With Colorado effectively out of the MLS playoff race and under an interim coach, the situation for Bassett could change quickly.
All right. Thank you to everybody for today's Scouting Reports. There are several people who have joined the Scouting Network and I haven't yet assigned them a player, and they've emailed me. I promise I will be getting to that. Things have just been real busy lately, but I promise I will get to that.
You got stuff going on?
I do have some stuff going on.
All right.
But I can make time.
Cool.
I can make time.
I believe in you.
So if you want to join the Scout Network, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. All right, Taylor, we've got to edit the show, publish it, and get out of here in 10 minutes before we go to the DC United game.
One of us is going to do that, and the other, me, is going to stare at you while you do it.
All right, so that'll definitely speed it up. That'll be really helpful. So I will say, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for helping me pick our US men's national team 23-man roster today.
You're welcome.
Thank
and
you.
right back at you.
Should we read out the roster so people can hear it one more time just before we...
I feel like you're stalling because you know you have to edit. Yeah, Zach Steffen in goal, Sean Johnson, not Brad Guzan, so I don't get punched in the face. We'll go Ethan Horvath, why not? Or Bill Hamid. I'll say Bill Hamid, you say Horvath. And then I had Reem, DeMarcus Beasley as my left backs. Brooks
we
Robinson.
never argued over DeMarcus.
I mean, no, you just kind of let that one slide, but that's more hopeful than realistic.
Can we call it a 24-man roster and we'll just add DeMarcus Beasley?
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that instead, yeah. All right, so then we had Brooks Robinson, Miazga Long. You had Zimmerman in there as well, right? Yep. So that fills that one out. And then Dest, and I think we landed on
Cannon/Lima.
Yeah. in that order.
Yeah.
Michael Bradley, Weston McKennie, and then we had Darlington Nagby filling in for maybe Weston McKennie if need be. We had Pulisic, Pomykal, Sebastian Lletget.
Over Duane Holmes.
And the rest of our attackers rounding it out, Mr. Grove.
Yep, Areola, Boyd, Weah, Johnson are our wingers, and Sargent and Altidore are our strikers.
I had Fabi Joe written down, but I'll accept Johnson.
Fabi Joe's even better. Fab Joe.
Yep.
So that is our 24, the DeMarcus Beasley 24.
There we go.
So once again, thank you, Taylor, and listeners, thank you for listening. It wouldn't be worth us doing it if no one was listening.
Accurate.
We will talk to you again soon.
We will.